never knew that was Richland County, and I was like, and that makes so much. It's just funny now thinking about all those.
And now you live here.
I know, so I'm excited to live here and watch it.
I don't know. I'm gonna watch it and be like, wow, I never knew all this stuff happened. I kind of don't want to see it.
I'm from Birmingham, so it was always on first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah, so tonight's the first show, so if you got reels.
Great.
Well, can I get that? Isn't it available on like?
Or DVRs for you.
I know.
Oh, and you can silence your phones if you want to know.
The devil to bring close when murdered. Grant to we've got a case similar to. Doesn't make you feel good to have to do something like that, but then you have to also look at the family. And some to really to bring close of one home and the proper and that been found. A Lisa to us on May the 10th area. Her investigator got the case, and looking at it. They just didn't feel like it was a real we were taken to a wooded area in Newberry County where we discovered the body of A. Lisa Wood. Newberry County Sheriff's Department was a great help with us. We were able to recover a body, and a coroner will talk in a minute about how we were able to do the identification. This is a sad case. Anytime someone loses their life, it's a sad case. This was someone who had a family whose life was just needlessly taken away from them. But I think it illustrates that just how serious we take missing person cases. And I know sometimes there's criticism that we don't care that somebody goes missing or somebody's a runaway. And it's not really a big deal to us in law enforcement. I think this case is a great example of how that's not. Here was someone just reported missing. Really not a whole lot of evidence to go on at the first, but our investigators kept digging, and when they felt like they had something that just didn't look right, they just kept on digging. And as a result of that we were able to bring her home to her family. Not how we would have liked to have done it, not how the family would have liked to had her come home, but there is some closure for them. And so he's been arrested for murder. She's been recovered. It's no winners in this whatsoever. I'll let the coroner talk a little bit about how important they were in getting the body identified.
Thank you, Sheriff Lott. I'd like to thank the Newberry County Coroner's Office, the Newberry County Sheriff's Office, and all law enforcement and community members that were involved in helping us bring Elisa Wood home. She was discovered on July 19th around 9 a.m. in a shallow grave in Newberry County in a wooded area. Our anthropologist that's on staff, Dr. William Stevens and Rachel Manley Baker, were assisting the Newberry County Coroner's Office in the recovery of the body due to the state of the decomposition. We were able to positively identify Elisa Wood through dental records, and we were able to identify her family was indeed her. But we are grateful that we have Dr. William Stevens and Rachel on staff to help recover such delicate human remains, and for this family, for their daughter, for their sister, for their mom. We thank Sheriff Lott for including us in the press conference today, because we want to make sure that we control the narrative. We will be classifying this death as a homicide. And so we won't give any details as to the cause of death yet, because there are some things that we're still looking into in terms of the skeletal remains, but we will certainly release more information as the family allows us to. Thank you.
Any questions on that case before we go on to the next one?
Do you know where in Newberry County about it was, and was it a body that wouldn't have been found if it hadn't been for the,
It was in
information you guys got?
It was in the Peak area of Newberry County, and I can't say it would have never been found, but I will tell you that that area had been previously searched, not where her body was found, but in that vicinity, and we had not found her. And so making the deal with the devil is what we did, and we were able to get a charge with murder, don't plead to murder. Plea for a few. We didn't give the baby away by no means on this. We held strong the fact that he would be charged with murder and plead guilty to murder, and he'd get a significant amount of time. But we were able still to bring her home.
Were you all able to pinpoint a motive?
Probably a domestic situation. It'd be classified as domestic related.
Can you shed some light on why the investigation focused on the boyfriend so quickly?
Just some things didn't add up, that he was the last person probably to have seen her. Just some of his story just didn't feel right, and that led to suspicion, and from that point we just started doing some things at our investigation that continuously confirmed our feelings until we felt confident enough to get a murder warrant. Even though we didn't have the body, we felt confident enough that we could prove the case.
I know at a previous press conference we spoke to some of the family members, and they seemed to be very suspicious of his story. Did that kind of help you guys narrow in on him?
No, they just got that feeling almost from the very beginning when they talked. When they interviewed him, they knew something wasn't right. But again, feeling something right and being able to prove it's two different things, so we had to do some work. And that's what we did. We worked on it continuously to get evidence that, again, gave us enough probable cause to go make an arrest.
What was the actual cause of death?
We will not release the cause of death at this time. We are still evaluating the body. We want to make sure that if we do release a cause of death, with the family's permission, of course, give you an accurate cause of death. We want to be able to include all of the things and not just a part of the story. So we don't typically release a cause of death for a decedent unless the family gives us explicit permission to do so. So we will certainly acquiesce to the family's desires for that, and we will not release any information on actual cause of death unless the family gives us permission to do so. But thank you for asking.
All right, the next case we want to talk about is we had a murder this past weekend on In-Town Suites on Two Notch Road. Diedrich Pogue was found killed. Our investigation proved that this was a drug deal that turned into a robbery. We were able to identify Darius Foster as the person responsible for shooting Mr. Pogue. He was arrested yesterday in North Carolina. He's also charged with murder. I've stood up here before and shook my head and talked about murders that, too often they involve some other crime going on. It's drug robbery or gun deal turned bad and somebody ends up dead, and this is just another classic example of that. Another needless deadly, but it's one that, again, that's been solved. We have 21 murders this year in Richland County so far. We solved 18 of them. The ones we haven't solved are being actively worked, and I'm very confident they'll be solved also. Last year we had 34. We solved all 34, and I feel like we're going to be able to do the same thing this year too. I can't stand up here and say that's the good part of it, because that's 34 people lost their life last year, and there's 21 already this year. But it does bring closure to the family, at least knowing person or persons responsible for taking their loved ones being caught. To me, that's a big deal. That's very significant that we're able to do that. And our investigators work very hard, from the missing person cases to just a straight homicide. When we know it from the very beginning, they work it. And our guys and girls in investigations work hard, and they're able to solve these cases. And I kind of challenge you to go to any other jurisdiction anywhere in the United States where you're going to see the clearance rate on murder cases is where we've got. And so the credit goes to our investigators, to our forensic lab, to everybody who works here. This is a team effort. When we have murder cases or we have a missing person cases, everybody pitches in. And that's how we're able to solve these cases. And again, bring some relief and closure to the families. That's one of the most important things that we can do. Warner does the same thing with her staff, and we work very closely together. Our two officers do on these murder cases. And it's all about the families. Questions on that?
How old was Mr. Pogue?
He was born in '94.
And I know in May we were talking about, at this, not particular, but we're losing a lot of young people to drug-related crime and, gang-related activity. There's the group Gang for Peace that has tried to form to kind of bring healthy outlets for young people. Do you think that's an important first step for kind of leading them away from crime and towards more positive activity?
It is. Since you brought that up, I'm going to address that. I called out the community a couple months ago and said we needed help. We needed help from our faith community, from our elected officials. We needed help, and I'll have to say that initiative has answered the call. And these gang ambassadors have been going out in the community, and we see some results of what they've been able to do. I think that's a very important step, and I support them all the way. We're going to work with them as much as we can. I think they bring a lot of credibility to the fact that these young people listen to them. That's a lot different from hearing what I've got to say about gang-related crimes versus someone who's looks like them and was them at one point, to talk to them and try to convince them not to get involved in that. I think that's important. So, yes, I support it. I think they've been very good. We got a lot of organizations that need to start working together for one common cause, and that's to stop this violence. We shouldn't. This shouldn't be a race or a competition between different groups to see who can, get their name in the news, who can get credit. This is about kids losing their lives. So, yeah, I support that. And last, we're going to finish up with something good. We had Miss Goodwin, who was reported missing to us. She went last was seen on July the 19th. She was reported missing on the 20th. We put out a silver alert. Yesterday evening, her car was found in Calhoun County in a wooded area. We searched that area a little bit last night, could not locate her. This morning early we went back and we found her alive. She is being checked out. She's coherent. She's in about the best shape you can expect for someone who stayed out in the woods all night long. But again, this was a missing person case that showed just how much we put emphasis on it. Once we got that report, we were able to put the silver alert, which goes out to everybody, so everybody's looking out for the car. Our investigators stayed on it. Calhoun County Sheriff's Department really helped us tremendously last night when the car was found in Calhoun County. He was out there with us this morning. So we have a happy ending. I'm standing here talking about people dying. Well, let's end it with a happy story. That elderly person with some dementia that probably shouldn't have been driving a car, was off driving a car, got lost, ended up wrecking her car on a dirt road and wandered into the woods, and she was found. So thank God that for everybody who prayed for her, who helped out in this, and so we have a happy ending to that story.
Sheriff Lott, how is Deputy Smith doing following that exposure to the drug this week?
A lot better. She was released from the hospital. She still just does not feel 100%. We were lucky again on that. Lucky that we had Narcan, was able to administer to her, get her to the hospital very quickly, so the hospital was able to, do what they do. So again, we were lucky. So she'll be returning full duty, not today, but in the very near future.
Are you able to confirm what that substance was at this point?
Not yet. We don't know. We only going by the guy who had it said it was fentanyl, that he had just overdosed on it about an hour before. And so, according to him, it's fentanyl. So that's what we're going to go by. It was something because it knocked her unconscious. And so it had to be some kind of drug, and fentanyl will do that to you.
And do you know how she possibly came in contact with it?
No, it could have been on his clothing, and she could have, while she was searching him, could have inhaled it at that point. She had gloves on, so it didn't go through the gloves, but probably at some point he had the part still on him from when he OD'd on it, and he must have inhaled it. To me, it really doesn't matter how she got it. The fact that she got it on her and that we were able to save her life, that's the most important thing. And it also just illustrates the dangers that our deputies face out here every single day when we're dealing with people. Fentanyl is a problem. Fentanyl is killing people. The coroner can talk about it. I'm going to let her talk about that. She sees it. You don't see the overdoses that we see. They're not publicized. People are dying almost every day from fentanyl. And, we're lucky we didn't have she's not the first, number 3 that's been exposed to an illegal drug that we've had to get to the hospital that's almost lost her life. Let's talk about fentanyl overdose.
Could you just speak about, I know some of the medical experts have said, we don't track the actual overdoses, we just track the overdose deaths here and the fentanyl deaths, but if you could just speak to some of the situations that you see and how dangerous.
So one, I would like to say that yes, in terms of the exposure that may have had, our deputies certainly face the same challenges and risks. Any exposed skin when checking a body or a suspect, any exposed skin that is exposed to fentanyl, it can be absorbed through the skin. As a matter of fact, fentanyl is a drug that is prescribed in a paste form that is placed onto the skin, and it's typically for people with chronic pain or stage 4 cancer, terminal cancer, things like that. And so it can be absorbed through the skin because it does come in the formulation of fentanyl. It can be crushed, it can be snorted. Have the addiction of who have addiction as a disease, be careful. just your exposed skin can actually absorb the fentanyl. And fentanyl is a drug that is a depressant, and so it will slow your heart rate and slow your breathing down to the point where you can no longer sustain life, and eventually it's like you just go to sleep and don't ever wake up again. So for those who are exposed, especially in a large amount, fentanyl is normally prescribed in a very tiny amount, like 0.25. So when you see someone taking a pill and it's 10 milligrams of fentanyl, you can understand why their cardiopulmonary system would arrest at that point.
Is all the problem with fentanyl people trying to take this drug that is too strong for them, or are there cases where like people are taking other drugs like marijuana or something that has fentanyl kind of laced in there with it?
The drug is illegally manufactured, and the FDA doesn't regulate drug dealers. And so when we have at-risk family members and community members, they're not intentionally trying to take the drugs to kill themselves. They have a disease, they have an addiction. And so we have to talk about it in forums like this so that we can help decrease the stigma so that our at-risk community members can go and seek the help that they need. But if you have an at-risk member, you can go to Loradac. They will give you Narcan for free. So if you notice one of your members of your family, one of your friends, overdoses happen in a silo, they're typically doing drugs together. It almost always happens, almost 80%, it happens in a group setting or with someone else. So what uses board. It's the one extra thing that you can do as a parent, as a friend, as a family member, as a community member to help protect that loved one.
And from like a scientific way, how does that Narcan work to kind of reverse the drug's effects?
So fentanyl, remember, slows the body down. It slows the respiratory system down, so you're not breathing enough times per minute to get the oxygen that your body needs. And so the Narcan reverses that effect. So if you think about it, if we just use our hands, if we think about fentanyl slowing us down, the Narcan does this and wakes you back up. So move out of the way if you administer it, because when they wake back up, they're mad and they're fighting.
I'll add this to it also. The body cam that we had shown that day showed that the suspect was actually trying to help our deputy, telling her how to breathe, because he says, when I overdose, this is what I do. I breathe slow, I breathe deep. He was telling her because he's overdosed many times. So he was actually trying to save her life also, along with our other people that were there. It's real. Again, every day in Richland County, somebody is overdosing. Unfortunately, a lot of them are losing their lives. You just don't hear about that. So, again, we're fortunate. Every one of our deputies have Narcan. We were able to accomplish that now. So they have that protection. So hopefully we can save their lives. Hopefully we don't have to deal with this, but that's 3 times now that we've had it. So.
Sheriff Lott, if you could just speak to some of the concerns in the medical community, that people, when they hear about this, there may be a concern or an unwillingness to help folks who are overdosing because they fear that you might get exposure just by touching. So if you could speak to that.
That's a decision that individuals are going to have to make. I can't tell somebody to place their life in danger to save someone, but I know what I would do. I would help someone, but again, there's risk involved in that. So that is a personal decision, and hopefully we got enough good Samaritans out here, even those who have overdosed before and who got the drug on them was helping our deputy. So they are good Samaritans as well. I think there's more good Samaritans than there are people who will stand there and watch somebody die. All right, thank y'all.